Our final guest is Emmy-winning host, TV personality, and style expert, Lilliana Vazquez. Lilliana is a first-gen Latina who curated a career that began from the launch of her 2008 style blog, Cheap Chicas. Since then, she has been a regular contributor on platforms like NBC Today, E! News, and more. We recorded this upcoming interview just before Lilliana and her husband Patrick welcomed their first child into this world, their son, Santiago. Welcome, Santiago. I spoke with her about her fertility struggles and how she's trying to help Latinas advocate for better health care for themselves. Here she is, Lilliana.
Hi, Lilliana.
Hello, how are you?
I'm great. You look beautiful. How are you feeling?
I feel very anxious. I feel like I am ready to meet this baby. Like it's too long. Like this little person needs to be earthside. So I'm ready for them to arrive.
So if you don't mind, for those folks who haven't heard the story, can you just do a recap for us of what it's been like for you and what it's been like?
Absolutely. Well, health and wellness are such a priority for me in my life. It wasn't something that I really learned about or discovered until much later in my 20s and even in my 30s. But it really came to head when I took a very simple test with my gynecologist. And I always start this story with the fact that my doctors are not just my physicians, they are my partners in my health journey. And if at any point in time you feel like you're seeing a doctor who's just checking boxes, asking you basic questions, you need to run out of that office and find yourself someone that cares about you as a whole person. I've never heard Mullerian and I have never heard AMH at 35 from somebody that, you know, is pretty well researched when it comes, especially to reproductive health. And so basically AMH just tests not your quality of the eggs, but the quantity of eggs that you're producing in any given cycle. Well, my test came back and my numbers were alarmingly low. They were borderline undetectable at 35. Wow. The levels that I was reading were of a woman who was about to go into menopause. And obviously at 35, does it happen? Yes, but it's very, very rare. And I started IVF treatments in March of 2016 because if I wanted to have children naturally, and if I wanted to try myself, then that was really the only route for us. And up until that time, most of the conversations that had happened around fertility, I noticed were happening with my white friends. My cousins weren't having those conversations with me. My mom wasn't having that conversation with me. And I quickly learned that there is a huge disparity between conversations about reproductive health and advanced fertility treatments in the Latinx and Black communities versus our white communities. And that started a mission for me to say, there's no reason why we as Latinas can't have access and education to these types of resources, especially when you see the numbers and you see that women our age are waiting. We're waiting because we're getting our PhDs, we're running our own businesses, we're choosing to be head of household first and then our careers next. Whatever choices we are making are the different choices than our moms made and our abuelitas made. And what that's doing is postponing family planning. And that is perfectly fine. I did it. But at the same time, you need to understand what that postponement and what those decisions, what that impact is on your health, especially your reproductive health.
Right. So I love that you say that you are your own best health advocate, because I think that frame of mind is so important. And we are definitely taught that we own our destiny and that we can do anything, but it seems abstract most of the time. And your story absolutely makes it very particular. So tell me about taking those first steps in advocating for yourself in light of this drastic news, I imagine.
Yeah, well, the first step for me, I think, was getting over the guilt. I think as women, we feel so much guilt for making decisions that just benefit us. And we need to do away with that. And I will tell you, for 6 months to a year, I thought, wait, did I do this? Like, did I make myself infertile by waiting until I was 35 and prioritizing my career and my relationship with my partner, who I adore, and traveling and doing all of these things that I chose to do? I made those decisions. And the short answer is absolutely not. you cannot see infertility. You can't like eat your way healthy out of infertility. It affects anyone and everyone, right? Like for whatever reason, those are the cards that I was dealt. And honestly, like when you look at the whole like game of life, like it's okay. Like there are solutions and there are ways to work around this. But the first thing I had to do was really get over that guilt. And once I got over that guilt, I really started to read and do a lot of research. And I realized that IVF is a tool. It is not a solution. IVF is an odds game and it is a numbers game and it is an expensive game that you play. And sadly, it's not accessible to everyone. And even if you save all your money, or I've heard stories of people taking second mortgages on their home, there is no guarantee that you will get pregnant with IVF. So I always say IVF is a tool. And that was a really important distinction for me to make, because there's also other tools to parenthood, right? Parenthood and even pregnancy is not just a physical thing. It's a mental thing too. And I think those two go hand in hand, and there's not enough advocacy for the mental wellness aspect of getting pregnant and IVF and infertility. There's such a focus on the physical, and I think they both have to go hand in hand to be truly successful.
So let's pick up on advocacy, because you now have become a very vocal, very energetic advocate, not just for the education, but really for the transformation of how in the Latino community and among women of color, we talk about infertility, we get informed about infertility. So tell me briefly, please, about your work with 100 Hispanic Women and Kind Body.
Absolutely. So, one of the things I know about my family, I'm half Mexican and half Puerto Rican, is we talk about everything. Except we do not talk about sex outside of procreation, and we do not talk about miscarriage and infertility. Those topics are taboo amongst my tias, my primas, my mom. Those are just conversations that are not had. I remember when I asked my mom, Mom, did you suffer from miscarriages, or does this run in your family? She was like, ay, mija, ¿cómo me vas a preguntar eso? Like alarmed that I would ask her a question like that. I'm like, we talk about everything. And even my cousins were like, oh my God, Lilliana, why are you asking me this? I'm like, well, I'm asking because why aren't we having these conversations? And there's really simple answers for that. Number one, we don't know how to process shame oftentimes in our community, and we don't know how to deal with trauma and loss. We brush it off, keep it moving, because I will say this, I think the Latinas in my life are completely built for strength, resilience, and tenacity. That is how we are programmed from the womb out. And while those strengths are really powerful, we also sometimes lack vulnerability when it comes to talking about health issues, especially women's health issues. And I'm so fortunate to work with 100 Hispanic Women. I've worked with Nancy for years, and I really wanted to work with an organization that had deep roots in the community, that had the trust of their community, because this is a very personal issue. And while I am comfortable talking about it, it took me 6 years to talk about it. So I understand how heartbreaking and how isolating it feels to go through this journey. And not everyone wants to be so public about their story. So I said to her, listen, any of your members that want to do this in private, like have them send me an email. They can create an anonymous address. I will connect them with my health partner, which is Kind Body. Kind Body has the same objectives that I have, which is to make fertility and reproductive health accessible, affordable, and most of all, be a center of education for communities of color. This is not something that is accessible to every woman, and certainly not to communities of color. There's so much discrimination that women face in a doctor's office. I've read studies that say that doctors will not even recommend a fertility specialist to women of color because they think they can't afford it. So if your options are being limited just by the way you look, or the way you dress, or the way you speak, that's not healthcare. That's not equal healthcare. And I really want to change that.
Thank you for today, for bringing your story to the Hill and for bringing your passion. I wish you the healthiest, most memorable birth you could possibly have.
Thank you so, so much. This has been a true pleasure and a true honor. And I really hope that this is just the beginning of a conversation.
Well, thank you so much.
That brings us to the end of our program today. A really big thank you to Telemundo and Centene for their support, and to all of you attendees. For those of you who missed any of the conversations this afternoon, we're going to have the video up from all of this up on our website shortly. A really big thank you to my crazy fun co-hosts today, Juleyka Lantigua-Williams and Rafael Bernal, for their support. I just want to say, what a great pleasure to do this. Can I just have you back every time? You're going to have a lot more viewers, and it'll be a lot more fun. Thank you so much. I hope you had a good time.
I did. This was great. This was great.
What was the worst part about it?
Nothing. You guys have given me VIP treatment all the way. It's really good to play TV anchor for a day.
Yeah, Juleyka is a fantastic journalist. I want to just say thank you so much for being here. It just really capped it off. Well, thank you all. I'm Steve Clemens. Have a great day. Be well. Great pleasure to do this. Can I just have you back every time? You're going to have a lot more viewers and you'll be a lot more fun. Thank you so much. I hope you had a good time.